All right. Well, Tim, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess, to kick things off, we got 3 beers here. Let's chat about these.
We got 3 beers. One of, we do a lot of different seasonals and specialty beers here at Levante, and we have Cloudy and Cumbersome, which is our flagship New England style IPA.
Yep.
That's what's out in the market on draft a lot and on shelves. The Wobbler, which is our California Common Lager. We do that once a year around the holidays. Super drinkable holiday beer. And then Tickle Parts, which is just a amped up version of, I would say, New England style IPA, like Cloudy, but a little bit more hop flavor, a little bit more tropical, and like 2% more ABV.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Cool. Well, I can say from experience, Cloudy and Cumbersome is my all-time favorite.
All right. Awesome.
Of any brewery anywhere.
That's high honor.
It's my favorite beer of all time.
Dude, thank you. I am honored.
And I've yet to try the other 2, but I'm sure they're awesome.
We'll send you home with lots of it.
All right. Appreciate it. I will take that offer. So yeah, I mean, first question to dive into your story. Take me through your story. How did you start Levante? Where did this idea come from?
So long story. We've been we've been open here. I'll go forward and backward, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. So we've been open for almost 10 years here in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Opened in 2015, and a lot has changed since then, of course, in the industry, in our business, et cetera. But prior to that, I was actually I was a student at Villanova University. I was in Army ROTC at the time, and I got a medical discharge from the military. I had a disqualifying condition, so I went into business school because that was my other passion. It was kind of military and business. And along my journey in the Villanova School of Business, I got into a entrepreneurship program. They had just started that year. So we learned how to write a business plan, pitch investors, et cetera. And that's where the whole passion for business came from. A year later, I got the opportunity to study abroad in Italy. And when I was there, just kind of bebopping all over the country, learning the language, eating a lot of food, drinking a lot of wine, I fell in love with the culture surrounding the food, beverage, and hospitality business, and particularly wine, and came back here to the U.S. and wanted to be a part of that somehow in my entrepreneurial journey. And I was actually down in Baltimore for Halloween. I think, what's the bar down in Baltimore? Casey's. It's not Casey's Ale House, is it? Is it Casey's?
Yeah, I think we've talked about it. Yeah, Casey's.
Yeah, I was drinking there that night. And I had like some of my first craft beers and went to a beer store just to get some kind of after party beers. And some guy popped out from out of nowhere and gave me a 6-pack of Dogfish Head. And he's like, if you like good beer, you won't regret this purchase. So I bought it, cracked the top, and just remember to this day, like the aroma that came from it. I was like, what is this? Now I know it's hops. It was a dry hop IPA.
Yep.
Drank it, and it's almost like the curtains opened, like the veil was lifted, and I was like, I want to learn I want to drink this, I want to make this, I want to sell this, and just got bit by the bug. And after that, I read every book that I could about brewing and the beer business. And fast forward to 2015, that was about 2008. I had a business plan, had pitched some investors, found some great partners, and here we are. And that's kind of like the whole start of it.
Wow. So you started this you kind of fell in love with it in 2008. And then 2015, you officially opened. So there's a 7-year gap there where you were just continuing to learn about this and continuing to kind of, toss around the idea in your head. And then in 2015, you decided to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah. I mean, come to think of it, I guess I was a little slow there.
No,
I graduated. Yes, I graduated, was learning. I'm definitely like a all or nothing type of guy. So I really studied as much as I could. I wanted to know everything that I could about the business, about the beer. And I wanted to get some professional experience under my belt too. Of course, a little bit of funds to put towards the business doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So I worked in a few different industries. I was in the mortgage industry, mortgage and real estate. Then I went into healthcare and clinical and financial consulting. And I think I learned a lot from those industries, but the whole time I was working, this side hustle or this side angle of, okay, I'm going to write the perfect business plan for a brewery. And one day I was kind of just like, all right, got to get off the pot and pitch some people about this. And all my bosses were super supportive, and they'd be like, oh, your beer is great. I was home brewing, tweaking recipes, took a very scientific approach where just one little change every day rather than, I'm going to brew this different style.
Yeah.
I started with an IPA called the Chief IPA and just made little tweaks every single time I brewed, which was a lot back then. And people started saying like, hey, we love your beer. We think you could sell this. And that gave me enough courage to really go out and talk to my first prospective investor. And that went well. They were like, this is the best brewery business plan I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of them. So I was like, oh, wow, I'm doing something right. I think I can do this. Give me just enough confidence to actually, go talk to the next person. And with each win, just kind of started to figure it out and made it happen.
So what does the best brewery business plan they've ever seen look like? What were some of those things that you included in there that made you stand out from all the other brewery business plans that they had seen?
That's a good question because I don't know if it really was I don't think it really was that great of a business plan.
Been in business 10 years.
Yeah, when I look, they always teach you that in business school that you write your business plan. It's a great learning exercise, but it's basically obsolete after it leaves the printer.
I'm always shocked when I hear that people, because I'm just like a fly by the seat of my pants kind of guy, and like I did not have a business plan. I just kind of was like, I'm just gonna start doing marketing and figure it out as I go.
Get started faster that way, right?
Yeah, but then sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I actually had a plan that I was following. So I'm always fascinated. I think there's two different types of people where some are just like go, and then some are very calculated and like to plan everything.
Yeah,
and neither are good or bad, but I'm just fascinated by when people actually take the time to do that and how it went.
I think some people and maybe it's just me, but I'm like more in the middle. Mm-hmm. I am kind of, what do they say? They're ready, fire, aim sometimes, but I'm also, especially being 10 years into this now, really into, okay, let's develop a solid strategy. And then, think about every decision we make. Does it kind of harken back or tie back to that strategy? We kind of had that back then too, had a business plan, but as soon as we started the business, laws changed. Consumer habits changed. What people were drinking, the styles of beer. All that kind of stuff changes so quickly that it is a great exercise to have a plan. I was thinking about that this morning. It's really weird. I was thinking about, hey, if I were to start another company, another business, would I even write a business plan? It kind of sounds like you went that direction where you're like, let's just start and then we'll get a plan together.
Yeah.
Or
not saying that's the right decision by any means. I think I could have used a little bit more planning, but
sure, we don't advise it. Don't do this at home, kids. But yeah, I think maybe it was just because I didn't have enough confidence. I wanted to prove that this could actually work. I was passionate about it, but didn't know anything about it or have any experience in the brewing industry. And, back then, 2008 was a rough year to 2008, 2009 to graduate, to go out in the working world. And I was trying to get just side jobs at breweries or a beer distributor, whatever I could do. And a lot of people wouldn't hire me because they were like, you're overqualified. You just got out of Villanova. We're going to train you how to package beer and you're going to leave because you're going to eventually find a job. It's just that the market sucks right now. So all the breweries around here, I couldn't actually get in, even working for free, to get any experience. So I was like, I just have to do it myself. I have to, put together a more professional brewing system. I have to write a great plan. And I actually got involved in the beer sales and distribution world. There was a craft beer distributor called the Beer Yard in town I grew up, Wayne. And this gentleman by the name of Matt owned it. And he's like, I walked in on a rainy day and I was like, I love this place. I come in and buy beer here. Give me a shot. I just want to learn more about beer. I make it, sell it, all that. Mm-hmm. So he's like, can you start now? And I was like, it's like raining. I don't have a jacket. He's like, we'll just try it out for a few days. Just start now. So my buddy had actually driven me there and I was like, you can go. I'm going to start work. And just got into it. I learned everything from the other end of the spectrum first and then worked it back. I was homebrewing on one side and trying to be as professional as possible and writing a business plan. And then the other side, learning like what the customer wants, like i.e. the beer store and how it operates. And then, trying to figure out how to sell people beer the best way possible and make happy customers. And then at some point in time, maybe I merged the two, or I'm doing it now. I don't know.
Well, yeah. So to get into the specifics of that, what are some of those things from that plan or from that initial approach that you are happy that you thought about and executed on 10 years later?
That's what I mean. Yeah, there are some serious key points. I'm glad. Like, one was the plan to have a tap room, which is great. It was actually not legal in Pennsylvania at the time to have a brewery tap room. There were what was called brew pubs, so you could have a liquor license or our license, and it was a full liquor license, super expensive. Nowadays they're $500,000, so it was probably $250,000 back then. So we knew we couldn't do that, but we also were paying attention to, once we got our team together, we're paying attention to the laws and knew, okay, the tap room model is definitely going to be a big one, like direct to consumer. And when we started, it was still illegal to do that, but we could do tasters, like little cups of 3-4 ounce pours, and we couldn't sell them. It had to be for free. And we could fill growlers at the time, big glass bottles. So that's how we started. But like 2-3 months later, the law changed and we were allowed to have a tap room. So where we're sitting now is actually just a warehouse with picnic tables and a tap fridge.
Yeah.
So that was probably number one, having not just like the revenue and the margin from that, but the direct feedback from customers.
Mm-hmm.
They tell us, like, that's where our flagship brands came from. We want to drink more of these styles. Or this brewery up the road, I had, XYZ beer from them and it was awesome. Could you brew something like that? And they'd bring us in, a 4-pack or samples. So that was great. And then in the kind of craft beer, and we were kind of still on the tail end of the craft beer revolution, we were able to brew and release beers here. And at times there were 300 people in line waiting to have our beer, purchase our beer. And we could do $40,000 in one night on a Wednesday night in sales.
That's awesome.
Which is crazy because on the best Wednesday night, it might be $4,000 now, just to kind of put some perspective to it. But I'm really glad we did that. And then the other thing is I'm glad that we remained on point to be a production brewery. So we always said we were going to be a production brewery. We looked up to places like Trogs and Victory, which are big regional breweries around here. And we were like, we're going to eventually get to that size or some type of size, like that quarter of that size. So we were like, we have to be efficient with our production. We're not always going to be able to sell retail, and make $15, $16 on a 4-pack or $100 on a case.
Yeah.
So we had a business model and a financial model for both of those outlets, both of those revenue streams. And that really helped us survive some pretty tough times.
So it seems like the basis of that is you planned to start with a strong foundation in place so that you could scale distribution and tap room regardless of where the market or the laws took you.
Exactly, yeah. Kind of just ready for all things, but really focusing on the, how to be the best at two things, which was directly connect with the customer,
Mm-hmm.
The consumers in our area, the community that supports us, and then, be efficient and good at, I should say, just overall good at producing great beer in quantities.
Got it.
So
that was getting started, and now you're 10 years into it. We just went over, some of the things that you think you did well getting started. What are some of the things that you regret or would have done differently over the last 10 years?
Oh my gosh. It's like I always tell people, because it doesn't happen as much nowadays, but people will come to me if I'm in the tap room and just be like, hey, I want to start a brewery, or, I want to start a business. I love what you guys have done with the brand. Could we talk about, how to do that? Could I pick your brain? I'm like, I could tell you what not to do for absolutely sure. So many mistakes along the way that I think were just mistakes of ignorance, just not knowing what to brew, or, not knowing much about the wholesale market and kind of diving, headfirst into that. And I think that if the question is like, what are some of the top 2 or 3 things, it would probably be selecting like employees and partners, like whether it be landlords, wholesale partners, but people that your business depends on, like really doing, properly vetting, really getting a chance to work with people, get references, go out in the market if you're going to work with a wholesaler and, ask people, who's the best wholesaler you work with for bars and restaurants, like watch them, interview their salespeople. It's mistakes of like getting into relationships like that from, a business partnership standpoint that probably do the most damage when you make the wrong decision.
100%.
And conversely, if you make the right decision, it's like the best thing you've ever done.
Yep.
So I think that's probably the biggest. Like you sign a lease for a location that you don't have a proper business plan for, and you don't really know the property owner really well. And if that goes south, you're always telling yourself, oh, it'll go fine. But having the proper agreements in place, knowing the partners you're working with is way better than not. And then finding out after you're already locked in.
Yeah.
And, losing, there's been situations in which I've lost millions, and that doesn't feel good. You look back, you're like, if I had those millions, I would be able to do, this opportunity or that opportunity, I'd be able to execute that so much faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know that's general, but it's all around the relationships and agreements I think you get into.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, and I think that applies to basically any business. It's like,
yeah,
your business is based on the people who are in it and the people that you're working with. And if for sure you make the wrong decision there, then if you have bad people, you're going to have a bad business and you're not going to have a fun time.
Yeah, you can't do it all yourself. And, I always love the old adage, partnerships are the devil, but like, you can't do everything yourself. If you were a solopreneur brewery, and I've had some really great friends who were solo brewers, you eventually just burn out.
Yeah, you can't keep up with it.
You can't scale either.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's awesome. It's real romantic, but it never really works.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and to your point about choosing the wrong partners and kind of having rose-colored glasses on, I think that's just such a common tendency of entrepreneurs in general, where they tend to be optimists, or they tend to think that like, oh, no matter what happens, I'll figure everything out, which is like just an innate characteristic of being an entrepreneur. Like that's what kind of gets you on that road in the first place, but it can harm you in situations like that where you're like, no, I'm not going to do my due diligence. It's just going to work out because it always works out for me.
Yeah, you get like, that's a double-edged sword there. Yeah, I think you're right. I never thought of it that way. Like to be an entrepreneur, you have to kind of look beyond the problems. So, but be careful not to ignore them at the same time.
Yeah.
And like, it's easy, even if you're writing a business plan for something, you're like, I have learned to be so much more conservative than I was when we started the business. Someone told me when we were initially, maybe it was someone we were pitching the business plan to a long time ago at this point. They were like, plan for 3 times more capital than you need. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. Why would I do that? And now I know it's so true. But the same thing, like when you're planning a new retail location, let's say, take, your most conservative, realistic revenue numbers and try to build a business plan, try to launch with a third of that, in mind. I'm going to make a third of those sales. If it's $1 million, it's going to be $330,000. And if you can make your business plan work with a third of those sales, you're still making the right margins and you're still operating, then if you do hit your conservative numbers or even go wildly beyond that, you're going to be so much happier.
Yeah.
That way. So that's something I learned for sure is like, okay, what's your be more conservative.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And it's almost like when people go in with rose-colored glasses, like they're just expecting everything to be super easy, and it's never as easy as you expect it's going to be. It's always harder. And
but
so
you also can't let the challenges get you down either. Like we said about entrepreneurs, you're almost innately positive, looking for, okay, how am I going to solve this problem? Because you do have to have a different way of thinking. Otherwise, there's so many
potential problems.
Yeah, so many potential problems, but then the stuff that really pops up. Just an example, like the other week, the heart of our brewery went down, our steam boiler, and it was in the middle of a brew day, and I was just taking a fun day hiking up in the woods, and our head brewer called and was like, hey, really didn't want to bother you today, but I had some bad news for you. The boiler's down. And I'm like, well, I mean, shit happens. If stuff works, it will break one day. So let's get somebody in, try to figure out as quickly as possible. And, it's important. We got to do it. But if you sit around thinking like, I don't want to start a brewery because the boiler could break.
Right.
And it's going to cost me however many thousands of dollars. Or, I could have bad beer in the market and that could hurt my brand. Yeah, all that stuff's going to happen. Plan for it the best you can, but then deal with it. Deal with it when it happens.
Well, yeah, it's almost like you're guaranteeing I don't want to say guaranteeing, but you're really maximizing your likelihood of success if you adjust expectations to be conservative but realistic so you can absolutely hit them, and then go into that with the mindset of I will figure this out no matter what to hit those at a bare minimum, those conservative projections.
Yeah, and like there's something to be said for I'm not a very conservative person as far as like numbers in business are concerned. Like I'm always trying to push the envelope. Can we do this better, faster, make more? But I just learned that if your model that, if you're putting together something that I think is really important in business is strategy. And a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses don't think about what my actual strategy is. It's a term that's thrown around a lot. Like, what does it even really mean? It's tough to define. People have written whole novels on this or books.
Yep.
But I think if you have a strategy and you're writing a plan or a business plan to accomplish that winning aspiration in your strategy, if the plan works with lower, more conservative numbers, or outcomes, then it's going to work with better ones. So, but if you put one, just like that taproom concept, if you say we have to make $1 million to make this work, well, you better make $1 million. But what happens if you make 300,000? You're in trouble. So yeah, being conservative, I think, but also keeping it in context and having like an actual strategy is big. We didn't have one starting.
Yeah,
it was just a plan.
Well, so I want to dive into that a little bit. And I realize that this is a very kind of out there abstract question, but do you have any tips for devising a good strategy? Like when you're thinking of strategy, building a strategy for anything, what does that thought process look like?
Yeah, it's like I said, people use the term strategy so much, and even I do. Like we're like, oh, we're going to get this strategic partnership together, or we're going to talk about strategic marketing or marketing strategy. I've learned a lot even over the past year, being in business for 10 years and not having an overarching strategy, but then, reading the right books, having the right mentors, et cetera, really have had my eyes open to what strategy actually is. And it's really just it's a specific decision framework, and a few, maybe 4 or 5 major decision groups that you need to make that are kind of cascading and mutually supporting, almost like a loop. And when you know those questions, and there's some really great books out there. Like one that I'm reading right now is Playing to Win by A.G. Lafley and Roger Martin. Fantastic book. It's all about Procter and Gamble and how they put together a strategic framework and made it really simple. Like, hey, we've got these 4 major decisions that you need to come up with and then build them out for each area of your business. And, we could certainly get into detail what those are, or people could read the book, but it starts with a winning aspiration. Like, what are we actually trying to do here? What does winning mean? Fast forward, when we wrote the business plan, let's just fast forward to, okay, this is the definition of winning. Where if it's, let's just say it's value creation for the shareholders in the community. Okay, so what is value? How are we going to measure value creation for the shareholders? We want to get to be a $10 million business with 20% net profitability and define what great net cash flow is, free cash flow. That's great. You now have defined what your whole winning idea is for the brewery is. You got to make this much, be this profitable, and have this much cash. And then for the customers, we want to elevate their spirits. We're selling fun. We want people to come in here and really enjoy time with their family and friends, meet people in the community. We want to be able, we want to be successful enough to give back to the community financially. So that's just a little sample of like our winning aspiration. But when you set that up, kind of everything else falls into place. And then you start asking yourself questions of like, where are we actually playing? We've tried so many things like put a tap room. Should we put a tap room in Philadelphia? Should we, expand and sell wholesale in Alabama? There's someone who wants to work with us down there. And you start to like put the geographical constraints, physical geography of where you want your business to be, but also customer type. Like we can't be all things to everybody. So is our segment, people who are into craft beer and people who appreciate quality products and maybe are like, we call it craft curious. So I don't know if we call it that or if we just said that before, but
I like that.
You like it?
I want to steal that.
They like nice things. Like I like great food. I like nice wine.
Yeah.
I don't really drink beer, but I am curious about it.
Yeah.
So all those things we're now talking about, where I think if we would have known this 10 years ago, we wouldn't have stepped on the landmines or the potholes that we did and made those bad decisions. Got into bad partnerships or signed leases for locations that were never really going to be successful because our business plan was way too optimistic.
Yeah.
And like the rent was never going to work, or the relationship, or, you know, we needed to make improvements that were way too expensive. It was never going to happen.
So what I'm hearing is bad partnerships and all those other things are ultimately symptoms of a bad strategy.
Yeah. Or lack of clarity on the strategy. Absolutely.
And so to put together a good strategy, you start by being really specific about the goal that you're looking to achieve. Really specific, like nailing it down with numbers. And then you just reverse engineer how you get there.
Yeah. And you make those, I mean, you can go out and read about strategy. There are a couple different sources, but like that book's great. The Playing to Win is great because it gives you a strategic framework. And then you realize that when you're putting together a production plan for the year, you know, what products are we going to put out? Should we do 3 seasonals? Every decision that you make goes back to you kind of use your strategy as a lens to say, hey, does this get us there? How can it further our goals or get us to our goals quicker? And if it doesn't, you just start saying no to so much more. Because really, do you guys listen to or see Alex Hormozi?
I love a huge Alex Hormozi guy.
He defines strategy really simply. He just says that it's decisions that you make surrounding, no matter where you are in an organization, this decisions you make surrounded making decisions with limited, there's unlimited decisions to be made, but limited resources and how you apply the resources. And just start talking about everything that you do, asking yourself if it actually gets you to your goal and how. And is it better than these other options that you have? Now you actually start trimming a lot of fat and cutting out all the time and money waste, and you just start prioritizing better.
Yeah.
Stuff starts happening.
Yeah, I think that applies to so many things when you just are able to just have tunnel vision on one specific thing. Like we've even found that on the agency side of things, like that's the reason that we specialize in one specific type of customer where it's,
super smart. I always thought that was great about you guys.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. I mean, yeah, it's just like we focus on tasting rooms, and there's a couple different markets to that. It's breweries, distilleries, and wineries, but I look at that as like it's generally speaking the same process for us on our end, and they're all kind of going through the same struggles. But that allows us to, position ourselves as the experts in the space, and allows us to be more efficient operationally. And there's just so many benefits that come from, kind of having blinders on and being able to say no to other things that come in the door and be like, no, that's not what we do. That's
I'm sure there's a ton too. There's so many people saying, can you do this? Can you do that? Yeah. If you could, but should you?
Yeah. It's like, and will it scale?
Yeah.
And it's really hard to scale a marketing agency when, you have like one client in this industry and one client in this industry and one client with this service, and like they're all over the place, and you're trying to reinvent the wheel every time, as opposed to, just being experts at something and having a process for it.
Makes total sense. So you guys have your where to play strategy, or part of the strategy, I should say. You got your winning aspiration, then it's where to play. Going back to the Playing to Win book, and the Procter & Gamble strategy, it's freeing almost. And I think you see a lot of gurus out there are like, it's not how, what you say yes to, it's what you say no to.
Right.
And I think they're right.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, you could say no more times to say yes. And even, I won't name names, but we're looking to do a sports sponsorship. We have a really successful relationship with the Philadelphia Phillies.
Nice.
They're amazing, and it helps the brand. And it just, the stadium is what we call like a brand beacon for us in the city, because we don't have a physical taproom presence in Philadelphia. So that's been great, but it doesn't necessarily translate into other sports venues the same. So we were looking at this one that we really wanted to do, but it didn't drive anywhere near the value that we use the Phillies relationship as kind of like a standard or a control, and the proof of concept wasn't there yet. So we're just like, hey, so it doesn't work next to the Phillies relationship. How does it help us get closer to our goals or our winning aspiration? And it really didn't, as far as like value creation. Sure, from a branding, marketing standpoint, it could have helped, but we had stuff to measure that campaign against, and just decided that it wasn't the best move. So when you get 1,000 as a business owner, you get 1,000 of those decisions a week.
Yeah.
And but there are all these little holes in your time bucket and your resource bucket. So yeah, strategy. Alex Hormozi,
Yeah.
the scaling master.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's a million things to think about as an entrepreneur, and you need to have a framework of like, how do I make those decisions as easy as possible, and without a strategy and clarity on what you want to achieve, it becomes overwhelming to evaluate all the potential opportunities that come in the door.
You could go so deep into thought on strategy, but it really is simple. And while we're already promoting Hormozi, he has a podcast, The Game, which is fantastic. And his most recent episode is called Strategy 101. It's fantastic. It's like I think it's like 18 or 20 minutes, and he just boils down like strategy 101 and 201, and it's fantastic. But it's all about resource allocation, and then is everything that you're doing actually providing value? I'm gonna have to check that out. Actually, I listened to it like 4 times in 2 days.
I'm gonna go home and listen to it. Actually, yeah. Well, while we're promoting Hormozi, this is unrelated to anything with strategy, but it is related to Hormozi. And I just figured this is a good opportunity to share it because it's really helped me recently. He had this story where I think he said he was the president of his fraternity.
Oh, really?
And yeah, he was the president of his fraternity, and he had a bunch of freshmen that were rushing the frat, and a couple weeks in, they were all like really discouraged and ready to quit. And he said to all of them, he was like, "How many of you thought this was going to be easy?"
That sounds just like him.
Yeah, he goes, how many of you thought this was going to be easy? And none of them raised their hands. They all agreed that like they thought this would be a challenge, but yet they were all ready to quit. And he was like, okay, so you knew that this wasn't going to be easy going into it. So you just have to realize this is just what hard feels like. And
that's deep.
If you identify as someone who does not quit when things get hard, and you're just able to recognize, hey, this is what hard feels like, then it kind of puts everything into context and allows you to push through it. And I don't know why. I heard that the other week, and I've just been repeating that to myself every single day, and it has just resonated with me so much. It's like, man, like if you just kind of, every time you think about quitting on something, or you think about not following through with what you say you're going to do, you're just like, this is just what hard feels like, and I'm not somebody that gives up when things get hard, so I'm going to push through this, and I'm just going to do what I say I was going to do. It's unrelated to anything we were just talking about, but I just wanted to share that because I thought it was awesome.
It is really, well, I love that. Thank you. But like, it is related because, we're talking about the beverage business, which is extremely competitive. And I think people focus so much on, I hate when people say this, and no offense to anybody who says it, but isn't the market saturated? And I'm like, the hell are you talking about? There's breweries closing left and right. There's opportunity everywhere. I'm not happy that breweries are closing because, who knows who could be next type of thing. But if it's reached a peak as far as like how many breweries, distilleries, wineries are out there, and it's, quote, saturated, then there's probably going to be a correction. There's probably people who maybe don't want to do it anymore. So maybe they will quit.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll want to, approach you and want to sell you their brewery. And now you have an opportunity to expand at, a much lower cost than you would have before. Or you could talk to these people and kind of learn more about why exactly it's not working out for them, and don't do that.
Yeah.
So there's so many opportunities in, a saturated market that I know everyone says that, overall beer market share is going down, but I love the term bullish. I'm super bullish on if you stick with it and you really do develop a great strategy and just prioritize like a monster. I think that the next 5 years are going to be crazy for the people who really execute well.
Dude, thank you for saying that, because we've been, doing a lot of these podcasts, having a lot of conversations, and that has been a huge topic.
Yeah.
And for everybody, and rightfully so. It's stressful. It's, the market is saturated right now. People are going through tough times, but that's the first time I've heard someone take an optimistic lens to it.
Well, like you said with the Hormozi quote, like we knew this was going to be hard. It sucks. Like sometimes, don't get me wrong, I wake up and I'm like, I really wish I didn't have to deal with this or that. I really wish I had, I really wish I was just super well capitalized and I could, instead of having to worry about how to bootstrap, this project, I wish I could just throw money at it. But I was talking to a friend, an entrepreneur friend the other day. We were kind of reminiscing on 2019 and 2020 were our best years, believe it or not. And, we were super profitable and we could just do whatever we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think I told him, I was like, I think we were bad business people. We developed a lot of really bad habits. And then when things changed in the pandemic and customer habits changed and we didn't know our customers well, or we didn't track, what our customer wanted as well and what was going on in the market, we saw a really big shift because we thought we were giving them, the service and the products they wanted the way they wanted it, but they didn't. We thought they wanted more tap rooms. They didn't. They wanted to be at home with their families. They invested a bunch of money in their house and their sick patio with the fireplace.
Yeah.
And they want to drink beer, or maybe not, with their friends and families around instead of go out to the bar. So making those shifts came late for us, but I think because we were so kind of like fat and happy off this craft beer boom.
Yeah.
And like I said, people, we would have 300 people lining up on a Tuesday, Wednesday night, and you're looking at the numbers and you did 30, 40 grand. And you're like, this is awesome. I'm awesome. No, you're not. You actually suck. And you're getting worse because you're so successful. So this is a great proving ground for everyone who really wants to do it. And will everyone be successful? Who knows? I mean, it could get harder too. But yeah, I'm happy to provide you with some positivity because there is totally opportunity. Like, look at the most successful investors out there. If they made their money when they bought low, I'm still looking for those opportunities. They made their money when they bought low, and against all odds, they held those stocks and those investments, and they believed in them, whereas everyone else was selling. If there's an obvious great investment like Apple, Amazon, Tesla, or I don't know, that's been up and down, but Tesla now, then it's going to be more expensive to get in. There's not that much more opportunity for reward.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I do definitely think that the market is going to reach a state of equilibrium, and you hate to see people go out of business, but it's just what's going to happen. And I think you got to stick through it, and you got to make it work.
Those people who do want to, like, I would say absolutely just tighten the ship and get a real clear vision on what you want to do and do it.
Yeah.
Stay real focused on it. Because I think when things get tough too, you start to ask yourself, well, I have these other things I could be doing.
Right.
And maybe it's just distractions, like nothing wrong with sports and entertainment and, and spending time with family, but you're like, this isn't working out, so I'll just go do this.
Are you a David Goggins guy?
I like Goggins. He's intense.
He's intense.
Yeah, but I do like him.
It's like I hate to keep bringing up all these like motivational celebrities, but
tag him. Maybe they'll show us on the podcast.
You could talk about all the water he drinks, because I know he doesn't drink beer or wine or spirits.
Yeah. I disagree with him on that. You should drink beer.
Yeah. But he talks about the quitting mind and how, like, if you like personify that, where it's like, when things get hard in business and you're like, maybe I could like just pursue this other opportunity, or maybe I could just do this. And he just personifies it as the quitting mind, where it's like your mind just has a tendency to go to kind of like a weaker place when you start to feel pain.
Yeah. And that's so true.
Pushing through that.
What I'm sure, like, his background is in the military, and, we're talking, specifically business, but it's the same thing. Like, and I fall victim to that when stuff gets really tough. You're like, ooh, is there an exit somewhere around here?
Yeah.
But if you don't listen to that voice and you push through with a plan, just push through to push through. It's, for some people in the industry, it might be a really good thing for them to get out. It just might be what's best for them.
Yeah.
So if that's your plan, if their winning aspiration is to spend more time with family and to, have more of a 9-to-5 thing with secure income, not as much risk, I would say absolutely think about getting out and, but plan your exit properly.
Yeah.
And, don't just keep kicking the can type of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's an interesting way to think about it, because I don't think there always has to be, like, there's a difference between quitting and
Losing.
Yeah, quitting and losing, or I don't even want to say losing. Quitting and doing what's right for your situation. I think. I don't
Or
know.
could we say quit? Like, so, yeah, I get. I think I get where you're going.
Like, at what point is it just? It's just not going to happen for you.
Yeah.
And
or maybe it shouldn't.
Yeah, or maybe it shouldn't. And there's no amount of hard work or persistence that will get you to your end goal. Like, maybe is there some truly external factor? Maybe like you made a bad decision in the beginning. You placed your tap room in the middle of the woods or something where there's nobody.
Yeah.
No possible way people are going to
done.
Yeah, and you invested all this money. You are like so far in the red, and there's no coming back from that. It's just not feasible. That might be a good time to do something else and call it in. But if you have clarity on your goal, you have a plan, and there's a way to get there, and you can see the way, but you're just having a hard time right now, and you stop. That is what I would define as quitting.
Yeah, and it's tough when you like get into the quitting thing, because like I think of quitting like when I was in college. I wanted to, when I lost my army scholarship to the Army, and I had health issues, and they, the Army gave me a medical discharge, which is great. I should have gotten a medical discharge. I was like, well, why am I at school then? Why don't I just quit? I'm wasting all this money on this education. I wasn't unable to finish college. I just didn't want to do it anymore. So I was heavily considering quitting. And I made the decision to keep doing it. But like, if my health issues, like they made it so that I could not stay in school, I maybe would have failed or, made a decision to change directions, but I didn't necessarily like quit. So I don't look at it like that. Like if you're looking at getting out of an industry, you're looking at your situation, you're putting, you have your strategy or winning aspiration for you and your family and where you want to go with your life, because YOLO. And if you need to get out of something, then you do it. And I think there are a lot of, and maybe this being a beverage podcast, there's a lot of people out there thinking about what are the 9,000 breweries or however many are out there right now that are thinking about like, oh, I'm hanging on, I'm getting deeper into debt because I want to make this thing work, but it's just not right for me. Like, I would just encourage people, because I've done this too in tough times, just look at why you're doing it. Are there other opportunities that you really would rather, like sincerely rather do and would get you closer to your goals and your strategy, personal strategy? And maybe that's a theme here, is like, definitely watch your business strategy, but what's your personal strategy?
Yeah.
What does winning at life mean to you? And we don't think about that much. Like you think about business every day because it's right in front of you, but how often do you like journal? And I have a funny story about this. Like, so I wrote, coming back from the Craft Brewers Conference, I was flying home alone on a plane, and I just got out my notebook and started journaling about, hey, these are the things I want to focus on that are going to get me closer to my personal strategy over the next year. And when I got back, I got distracted, put it away, and I just opened it a couple weeks ago again and was like, oh, if I was just doing like a little bit every week towards this, that would have been great.
Yeah.
So I think we tie our identities to work in our businesses so much, we don't think about like maybe they've diverged. And maybe you're not that brand and that brewery or that distillery or winery. Maybe it's better that someone else comes in and takes that over and does that. Right now, at this point in life, I feel that, I'm the kind of founder, creator of the brand, and I add a lot of value, and I should be driving this thing, and I have the capability to help us reach our goals. Yeah. But at one point, maybe later down the road, I want to spend more time with family. Yeah. Maybe I want to open a distillery, whatever it is.
That's you couldn't have articulated that better. That's a great way to look at it, where your life goals come first and your business goals are basically, they just feed into your life goals. Yeah. And because I do want to backtrack a little bit, because I don't want people listening to this to think that I'm saying that there's like shame in quitting when it's not right for you. I'm not sure. The quitting mind. No, I'm not trying to come across like that, but
you can edit that out.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think this is a good conversation to have, though, because I think there are a lot of people in the space that are considering that right now. And there's no shame in it either way, but it is important to identify the situation that you're in and ask yourself, am I just going through a hard spot, and this still aligns with my life goals, and I think that this is a good way to get to those life goals, or have those diverged and I need to find a different path?
Yeah. And sometimes you can't, just like in the business plan where you're overly optimistic or pessimistic, it's really good to have somebody help you through that decision. So I'm super lucky to have a mentor who was big in the beer world and, has come on board over the past 2 years. And, I meet with him once a week or more. And anytime I have thoughts about that, like, hey, like we should be going this way, or am I the right person to lead the company forward to our strategy? He helps kind of reel me in and be like, listen, if you maintain focus, like you're killing it. Your decision should be, your decisions are a lot easier than you think. You're overthinking it, or you're being too optimistic or too pessimistic.
Yeah.
Having some kind of an objective voice there is helpful, because whether it's like a significant other or spouse, they're a little bit too connected to it. But if you have a mentor or someone in a similar industry, or anyone you can look up to and can keep it confidential, what you're looking at as far as your business moves. And this doesn't go just for closing your business or heading in a different direction. This is also for growing your business. And is my strategy right, for me and the market, et cetera? Just having some more eyes on it.
Yeah.
That you trust.
Yeah. I think that's definitely the thing. I think sometimes people try to have accountability partners or whatever. And I think it's such a big factor that it has to be someone that you look up to, because otherwise you're not
a level up from you.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Would be great. Yeah. If it were someone, because I think you can do so much with a mentor or coach that it, has already leveled up. It doesn't have to be like, if you're a business owner and it's $1 million business and you have, 2,000 customers or 3,000 customers, and they have a $5 or $10 million business and 20,000 customers, that's great right there. They've already been through the crap that you've been through. You don't have to go out and get the CEO of a Fortune 500 company just to get some good advice.
Yeah. I think it's oftentimes better to just have someone who's like 1 or 2 levels above you as opposed to 20 levels above you. Yeah. I think sometimes when people are 20 levels above you, it's hard for them to relate to the struggles that you're going through. Like they're so far removed from that at that point. Whereas it's better to talk to someone who has kind of been through that a little bit more recently, but they got through it and they're above you.
Yeah. It reminds me of like parenting. Like grandparents always give great advice, but it's a little better to talk to parents that have kids that are just a little older. Like if you have kids in elementary school, people who have kids in middle school or high school, they're like, oh, I know exactly what I just went through that. Whereas like my parents, they kind of forget. They're great grandparents, but they kind of forget. Yeah, it's like they got the gist of it. But I totally agree. So yeah, I think mentorship is big, but also if you're trying to make a big move, like really, even if you're like, hey, I think there's going to be a lot of breweries closing, and/or I have a great value prop, my brand is growing. Should I be investing in this tough time, these millions of dollars and years of my life? It's really great to bounce that off somebody who has done it. Yeah. I mean, and it might be free. You could offer to pay somebody. Sure, it's worth the money. Yeah. In fact, I was going through. We were trying to switch our distribution model. And I worked with, this gentleman who's my mentor to like, hey, this is what I should be doing. This is where it could go. Yes, it's worth the investment and the risk. And then that gave me the confidence to just go do it. Yeah. And I just, put my headphones on and my blinders on and just took 3 months and just switched the whole model.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point too. I think having a mentor or coach it just stops the overthinking sometimes, because it's more like oftentimes when you go to a mentor or coach, I have one too on the agency side that I meet with once a week.
That's awesome.
And it's just like oftentimes when I talk to him, I find that I was thinking about things the right way and I kind of knew what I needed to do, but it's just getting the validation from somebody that stops the overthinking. And when you stop the overthinking, it actually leads to action as opposed to just more overthinking.
Yeah, they get you off the hamster wheel of like that. What is that? The paralysis by analysis, but also I think that can help you find like meeting with someone like that, like your mentor or my mentors, like they help you prioritize so much easier. You're like, okay, as a business owner, I have these 100 things that I need to do. It's okay. Like, I got to eliminate, delegate, automate, all that kind of stuff. But like, what do I need to be doing right now? And if there's important things that still need to be done, okay, do I have the people to do them? And there's so much. I love this book by Michael Hyatt, Free to Focus. Have you guys ever read that?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh. It's like and it's not just for business owners. It's just for everyone. It's busy people, whether you're working, you're a parent or whatever. But he was a successful publisher and just figured out over time a really great framework to allow you to focus, to meet your goals and be successful. But it's not just professional success. It's like also physical, spiritual, relational. So that's a great book. And I try to read that again. Free to Focus by Michael Hyatt.
Okay.
It's real. It's just really all about like, okay, how can you free up time to focus on doing what you want to do and be the best version of yourself? And it's just real practical. So that's a great one. I try to read that every year and just be like, oh, wow, I forgot this.
I got to go home. I got to get that book and I got to listen to that Hermosi podcast on strategy.
That's just a good 20-minute investment of your time. Yeah. No big deal. But you'll probably tell me after this, you'll probably listen to it like 5 times because it's dense, but pretty simple too.
Did we're listening to that on the way back. Just FYI.
Just hit every Hormozi episode. The dude is the GOAT.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Well, so I want to dive into,
there was this kind of honeymoon period of craft beer. Then the pandemic happened, and it was actually, good for you guys in 2019, 2020. And then the market shifted quite a bit post-COVID. So what are some of the things that you've done to adapt to that?
Well, for one is really understand what marketing is and like what's successful, what you're good at or what works. And then just trying to do more of it, like working with you guys. We've worked with firms before and we've spent a lot more money and we just were never able to, during the pandemic, I think certain things just maybe you get lucky or you're just there at the right time. And during the pandemic, the liquor stores closed here in Pennsylvania, so you could not go get booze. You could go to the grocery store and get wine or beer, or you could go to the beer distributor or us, the brewery. So in 2019, a year prior to the pandemic, we happened to start an e-commerce business, and we're the first brewery in Pennsylvania to ship cans directly to consumers. And it was a mess because it was like UPS wasn't doing it. It was like a courier service. But we worked out all those kinks with e-commerce a year before the pandemic ever happened. And when it did, we were just like, holy crap. We were already set up. When everyone else was scrambling, we were just already set up for curbside and to ship anywhere in Pennsylvania or Virginia and DC, I think it was. So we were able to shift we had a little wholesale going, but we were able to shift our entire retail and wholesale business over to that while we reworked, the rest of the distribution model. And, I want to say at the time we were probably like a $3 million, like $2.5 or $3 million company. And we shifted almost overnight that entire revenue over to online, a new model. So it was great. But then after the pandemic, stuff shifted and, okay, now all of a sudden no one's ordering online, or it's like every month, our online revenues would get cut in half, but we wouldn't see the revenue returning to our tap room or wholesale. So it was just really just trying to figure out what the heck's going on. We're still trying to figure out what's going on. I think we're returning to a little bit more normalcy where, people are going out, but, and I hope no one shoots me, but I just think that the bar and restaurant industry is different. It's not going to be what it was. Because the generation changed, there was a generational shift, and it was, I think, lucky for the people who really execute well in the bar and restaurant industry because they're going to be super successful. But the mom and pops is going to be much tougher for, I think.
Yeah.
And we're like, for lack of a better term, dive bars are doing really well, and big chains are doing really well, and then the stuff in between, it's tough. We were talking about Applebee's earlier.
Yeah,
Applebee's was killing it, right? And the dive, there's an awesome dive bar here in Westchester Square Bar, and it's fantastic. The guys I know that bartend there clean up.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's just dive bars and big chains, and the people in the middle are struggling?
I don't really know yet. If I told you, I would not be. I can guess. I'll guess for you. I think it's because it definitely is kind of consumer habit shifting, but it's also a little bit of the demographics. So like if you go into, I haven't been to enough dive bars recently to say this is gospel or anything, but you have people that are going out like they always were, socializing with their friends and family, et cetera, at dive bars, drinking more, than your average restaurant. At your average restaurant. But like there's a lot of families. I think it has to do with that there are a lot of families, a lot of young families. So the baby boomer generation had what is it? Gen X, right? Or no, I'm sorry, Gen whatever Gen we are.
I think it's Gen X, then millennials, and Gen Z.
It was the baby boomers, Gen X was in between, and then they had the millennials, and I'm in that millennial. I think I'm on like the tail end of it, but I'm in that millennial group. But we all have kids. We're not going out as much. If we're drinking, which we're also trying to be healthier for our families to be around longer, to just be to operate better at work.
Yeah.
To just perform better.
You're not going to the dive bars. You're getting trashed at the B bar at Applebee's.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm even getting out to Applebee's. So there's a lot more on that generation right now. So you're building a family, perhaps, or if you're not, you're really kind of entrenched in the business world. And these are all generalizations, so please don't. Yeah. I'm not saying it is this way for everyone.
Yeah.
At the dive bars, though, it's you're more, single or don't have kids anymore, or, not, deep in the business world, and they're just going out and they're having fun, and that's where everybody is. Like, that's just the scene right now. And at the chains, I think you have sports, of course, but you also have, you have those chains that have done a really good job marketing. Their food's on point. If you want to take the family out, you can count on that's going to be an amazing experience. It's okay if the kids are going to, act up a little bit, but you're going to get great food at a great price, drink a couple beers and go home.
Yeah.
So I think that it has something to do with generational changes and, the funds and time and focus available to going out and hanging out in public. I just think that for the largest generation that we have right now, it's a lot more people staying home, people ordering things online. I mean, how many things have you ordered on Amazon in the past week?
Yeah, quite a few.
Right?
If you count my wife's orders too, at Jax's
household, yeah, so we got 10x. So I think that's just what we're used to, and I think we see e-commerce as having like a revival again for the beer thing. So we're definitely putting a lot of resources into that. But when you look at the business model, you look at margins. So if you look at people's habits, which is like stay home and buy things online rather than take an extra trip to the store because it's just convenience. Look at people's habits and then look at the business behind, servicing those habits. Sending people beer, from the brewery directly online makes a lot of sense. And it's not we've got great distribution partners, great beer stores that sell a lot of our product. We appreciate them, but it's almost like starting another tap room. Instead of starting another tap room in Philly, why don't we advertise more in Philly that you can buy all the brands that we have here, like these 20 more directly from the brewery and have it shipped to your house. And that's not a plug. It's just that business opportunity makes sense to us.
Yeah.
It fits our strategy. And we're not investing as much in it. So we should.
Yeah. Yep. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I think what you guys do really well is your entire online presence is just buttoned up. Like even, from when, like before you guys came to us, you already had all the pieces in place, and we don't see that from a whole lot of breweries. Like oftentimes when we go in and start working with a client, there's just a lot of cleanup that needs to happen. It's like getting the website in order and, like making sure that they're producing good content and, like making sure there's email marketing happening. And like, there's just all these different things that need to be set up and
so
in
much
place.
To do.
Yeah. So much to do. And, a lot of it is on the brewery owners or the team actually at the brewery. Like we can't do everything because we're not there in person. And you guys had all that in place. And that just goes back to what we were saying before. I think you guys have done a good job of no matter what revenue channel you're trying to scale into, you always have the foundation in place so that when the opportunity arises, you're ready to strike.
I appreciate that. And that's all our marketing team. It's, Amanda and Julie do a fantastic job. And we've had, we have Hutch who does all of our visual, like video and photography. And I'm sure like being in the business you guys are in, there's a lot of people who expect you guys to do everything. And we've realized that the content really has to be on, the creator.
Yeah.
No one can create your content for you. It's just like no one can really come up with a new beer brand for us. We have to do that ourselves. Even if we hire somebody to like come up with the skin, which we don't, we do that all internally, for the skin for a brand, like design a can for us and maybe give us an idea on what type of beer it should be. That just doesn't, we're really much more of like an organic brewery. We sit in a room and we talk about, okay, what are the trends? What do we like to drink? What's working for us and what isn't. We're just, I agree. I feel like we're getting a lot better about that, but that's always been really important to Amanda, our director of marketing. She's all about, how do we present? Like, how do we show up?
Yeah.
Is it consistent? And there's so much, she says no a lot. There's so much like, oh, we should post this, or, this trend, or, this new thing we're doing. We should really even wholesale. Like, you've got a lot of customers out there that support us and we appreciate it. But if we did an expose on every bar and restaurant, we would have 1,000 to do, not quite 1,000, I wish. We would have a few hundred to do, and you can't do them all. So if you did one, you would piss off all the others.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense to just stay away from that and just be brand focused.
Yeah.
And help them by having a strong brand so the pull through of our beer at their restaurant is better.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So
makes a lot of sense.
And it doesn't go much deeper than that. Well, it's build your brand, right?
I mean, branding is one of those things, though, where, like you said,
I think it's another one of those things where you just have to clearly define what your brand is, who it's for, who it's not for, what you stand for. And even I struggle with this with Harbor sometimes, like, because I see all these different agencies posting these different things, and I'm like, oh, like, well, that's like really funny. I like how they did that, but that's really cool. And like, it's like you want to just like take ideas from all these different places, and you at some point you have to be like, this is what our brand is. So this is our voice. Like, do we post this type of content or do we post this type of content? Do we, like, how do you communicate to the world? And I think branding is another exercise in saying no to a lot of things that look like good opportunities but are really just shiny objects, and then end up kind of confusing your customer if you just have like all these different messages and feels out there.
You say, I like, you use the term shiny objects because I call what I have shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, don't we all?
And it comes from like, was the founder of the company. I really I love beer and I love business, and I'm not a brander. I'm not a branding guy, and I'm not a marketing guy either. I've had to learn those things over time. And I started out, I initially did all of our brands, came up with our names, came up with the recipes, and I've given a lot of that, if not all that, up to our team. And they do a really good job at, okay, what are our guidelines? And I think that like probably maybe they would teach you in marketing school, like, what are your brand guidelines? What are your colors? What's your voice? What are your do's and don'ts? What do you say and not say? And all that, as like not being a marketing professional, all that's really important because, I might say I want our distributor to skin a truck for us, and it'd be great. I go to our team and say, what should the truck look like? I really think that Tickle Parts, our brand right here, is really growing. It's the next brand with the most potential for us. We should put Tickle Parts on it. And the marketing team will come back and say, why? I'm like, well, because it has the most potential for growth. We should put money behind that. We should have a Tickle Parts truck. But like, well, all of our other trucks are Levante, Cloudy, and Cumbersome. They're all this color blue right here. So you now want this color gray. And like, there's that constant question of like, okay, what's working and what isn't working for us versus what we want to work.
Yeah.
So like, we want Levante to be a bigger brand when really, so that's a huge goal of ours, and kind of diversify with the Cloudy and Cumbersome brand being it's the largest draft selling IPA in Southeastern or in PA right now. And it's really taken off, and it's kind of left Levante behind. Like, the rest of our brands or our brewery brand is not as strong. So we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we get Levante to be the brand rather than just Cloudy and Cumbersome. Like probably Dogfish and 60 Minute. They did a great job with emphasizing Dogfish.
Yeah.
And there's no right answer, I don't think, but like if you can, get the cachet from Cloudy onto the Levante brand and put a family of products together right next to Cloudy in the store and all of these, different tools, that's where I'm like, no, let's just go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
I have this new beer. It looks totally different. It's not even the same type of packaging.
Yeah.
I want the truck to have that on it.
Yeah. Well, I think too, it's like, it's fun to flex your creative muscle a little bit and not, like, you want to come up with new labels and not always just rely on the Cloudy and Cumbersome to carry everything.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to be more creative and fun. Like we have, like here on tap, we have, I think it's 24 different beers that we brew and they're constantly rotating. Maybe not even half of them will be what we call core beers that are just around all year round or seasonally. So we're always doing new stuff. The customer in the tap room wants new stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't want only new stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to have, Old Faithful.
Yeah. Old Faithful. You got to be able to, Cloudy sells, outsells everything else, 2 to 1. I think 75% of our total sales are Cloudy. And that's a risky position to be in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it continues to grow. So maybe we just, support that and try to diversify a little bit.
We were actually talking to another brewery owner last night, and he has a fall beer, and it's like it sells like crazy in the fall, and once fall time passes, he was like, it still tastes good the rest of the year, so I just changed the name.
That's great.
I just changed the name, and it then that beer picks up. It's the exact same beer, just different name, different label.
And it's amazing how, like, I bet you people are like, oh, this other label tastes so much better than this one. And it's not that he's trying to deceive people, I don't think. It's just that, there you have an activation like Wobbler, right? It's a Thanksgiving theme.
Yeah.
You can't have, no one wants to drink that in May.
Right.
So if the beer is great and people love it, maybe you just skin it.
Yeah, just reposition
another way.
Yeah.
We had an esports partnership with it. It was an internationally renowned team, like champions in Dota 2. And so Cloudy and Cumbersome, we got a different label. It was called AFK, like away from keyboard. And that started selling like crazy. And, I'd listen to people here in the tap room. They'd be like, hey, AFK is great. I think I like it better than Cloudy. I'm like, hey, I have to tell you, it actually is Cloudy. It's just skinned differently for the esports market.
Yeah.
And so many people in the esports realm wanted to partner because we had an esports beer, but it was no different than our regular beer that was right down the street.
Perception is everything.
Yeah, and we did our best to not we weren't trying to deceive people, but we also weren't trying to outwardly say, it's our regular flagship brand.
So I don't think anybody would really be upset about that.
I know
nobody would feel deceived. It's like, that makes sense. You reposition the beer.
Yeah, you have an esports partnership,
right? Yeah.
So I guess it's like anything else where like Miller Lite will have, or Miller Lite or Bud Light will make like the Eagles cans.
Yeah.
Or I should say, should I bring up another? Ravens,
Yeah. Oh, let's go. Big
Ravens. Oh, right. Doesn't is it? Oh gosh, is it Union City? Down there, you guys?
Yeah,
Union. Yeah, Union Brewing or Union Craft.
Yeah.
Union Craft does stuff with the Orioles, right? Don't they have an Oriole?
Yeah, they do. I believe so.
Yeah.
The Murray.
That's right. I see.
Steady Eddie. Yeah.
Yes, they do a great job with that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's looping that all into strategy. It's tough. Like if you don't know where you want to go, you will do what we did, which is just at least make great beer, try to make new stuff all the time. But that model, again, I think in the beverage industry particularly, if you're not focused, you're going to end up having an inventory of 50, 60 different beers. They're getting old. You're having to throw stuff out. So really getting forecasting down has been big for us and really honing inventory. We're always afraid of running out or missing an opportunity, but we've had to shift our mindset into how about make money on this?
Yeah.
Because if you made a great beer and you sold, 200 cases of it and it sold really quickly, don't double that size batch, next time around. Do 200 again. Let it sell out. Brew, and then grow it from there. We did this
kind of grow it incrementally.
Yeah, grow it incrementally. Or if you can add a little bit more volume, do that, or don't put so much in kegs, put more in cans, or vice versa if you're selling more draft. So like really getting into what your sales velocity and volumes are on the things that you do actually make money on, that'll help all of us business owners want to quit less.
Yeah, right.
Because it's a lot better when you're making money.
One of the, I mean, this is, I'm about to just like hype you up a lot, but one of the things that, like, my big takeaway from this conversation is you are a very good operator. Like you,
I wish. I'm trying to be thank you, but I'm trying to be a good operator.
no, seriously. I mean, like, you know, we talk with a lot of brewery and distillery and winery owners, and it just seems like you're thinking about things in a way that I don't think a lot of people actually think about things in. And
it's all hormozy.
yeah, I mean, it's strategy.
It's strategy.
You have a strategy for every single piece of the business. And I think that should be encouraging to a lot of people because, you know, you guys are doing well. And, you know, what that means is that even in a down market, there are a lot of things that are within your control if you can just make smart decisions and be strategic. And,
absolutely.
You know, yeah, I mean, kudos to you guys because I think you're doing an awesome job.
Thank you, man. And I mean, I didn't know a year ago, 6 months ago, I didn't know anywhere near what I know now. So like, I think if everyone would just challenge themselves to start to really think about their business and what is working and what isn't, you know, towards your goals. What are those goals? We just don't think about that a lot. And if you do, and you like rewire your mindset to always thinking about that and just reminding yourself, oh, I should go back. You know, like I was talking about that thing I wrote 8 months ago and didn't do anything towards it.
Yeah.
I got totally sidetracked, shiny object syndrome. If I were to just look at that every couple days, I would just remain focused on my priorities. And if those priorities are geared towards, you know, making my strategy come true or my winning aspiration come true, then the loop works. But we get so distracted, and then I think as business owners in a tough market, we get to be like, this might be impossible. I might not be able to do it. But you're right. You have control over certain things, like how you spend your time. What, you know, if you don't have a lot of money, what little money you do have, you have control over that. And then, like, you might be lucky enough, like we are, to have some great people. You know, maybe you're just not delegating your time right. That's always a weakness of mine. Like, I want to do that. I want to do that.
Me too.
No, I got to properly. That's what Free to Focus, Michael Hyatt, he's got a whole, in that book, he's got a whole section on delegation and the different levels of how to actually delegate and the difference between that and abdicating. But that's all these things. If we work on ourselves and we, you know, every day a little bit, like next year, you know, people listening to this will be beyond where I am now. And it's really only been over the past year that I've really the better part of the past year that I really focused on, okay, what is our strategy? I'm sick of going back and forth. And, I thought the pandemic would hurt us. It didn't. It was after the pandemic that did. And I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
But sick of just constantly, uprooting our strategy, if we even have one. And just feeling like, I'm at, kind of like thrown to the wind.
Yeah.
But you're right. You have control. And if you set yourself, set your azimuth, if you will, go in the direction you really feel you should be going. And, every step you take, for, better or worse, or like you think it's the right step to take to get you there, that's a good bet.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm actually a pretty bad operator. I'm just trying to get better at a few good things.
Yeah.
And I think that we'll be insane. Yeah. Like 5 years from now, anyone doing this won't recognize their business in a good way. They'll be like, whoa,
right.
Do you even need me anymore?
It's amazing what you can do with a little bit of focus on, a clear goal.
Yeah, I totally agree. And hopefully the people you're seeing out there, whether they're listening or you're just talking to them and helping to shift their mindset a little bit towards the stuff they can control, it's worth a lot.
It's game changing.
Or just turn them on to Alex Hormozy and, they can listen to the podcast.
Binge watch Hormozy.
You're fine.
Just a sprinkle of Goggins, too.
Yeah.
The beverage.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what you're going to get it all here.
Yeah.
We do that, and then we'll distill it all for you. No pun intended.
Well, this is cool. I mean, this is I feel like this was a very motivational
All right.
episode. Yeah, this is
some.
yeah, that was awesome. Well, how can people find out about Levante?
So we were talking a little bit about web presence before. If you go to levantebrewing.com, are what you can, depending what state you're in, Pennsylvania, Virginia, DC area. I think we're looking to expand that coming up, but you can order our beer right to your doorstep. Or if you're in southeastern PA or the Delaware, Maryland area, you probably find us at your local bar, grocery store, or beer distributor. But and then we're at Levante Brewing on your major social channels. And check us out. I mean, we're always trying to do something. We're always trying to do the next viral thing. No, I'm just kidding. We're always letting people know what what great big events we have coming up, which we have some really great stuff here in Westchester at the Tap Room. And if you stay tuned there or sign up for our weekly newsletter via email, all that great info on beer releases and events are there as well.
Sweet. Well, Tim, thanks for coming on. This is awesome.
Thanks for having me. This has been a treat.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Some bubbly water.
Bubbly water. Appreciate it.